Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Brackland Planning for today. First of all, could I just go through general housekeeping? Fire exits are the two doors on my left-hand side, on your right-hand side, because everyone's facing me. There's also another one down the corridor where the lavatories are, and also the entrance door where you came in. There are no tests planned for the day, or at least I haven't been told. So if you hear a fire alarm, we will treat it as genuine and we will evacuate the building by any of the exits I've just mentioned. If you're confused about where to go, then just follow this lot because they will be running fast out of the door. They'll set a good example to you. If I could just say, we are recording this session for today. And could you just ensure that all your equipment is on silent, not necessarily turned off, but just on silent, so we don't get any bleeps or musical tunes through the middle of the meeting. When an item is called, I have a list of people who have registered to speak. If you'd like to come and sit on the right-hand side, and the officer will then do the presentation, and I will tell you when you can speak and for what time. And while we're on that subject, you will have allotted times. And when you're partway through, if you hear that doesn't mean that your porter will come and take you to your room to sleep for the night. It means that you would need to be summing up. Summing up is a matter of a sentence and not the next 3/4 of an hour. So we'll get through it today, if nothing else. Could I also introduce my staff that are going to help us get through the day? Should have been a huge, great list. But we've had a few people who have been pinged, so they're not going to be here today. So this shouldn't take too long. I've written it down and then it's all gone. Here we are. We've got Mike Horn on my left-hand side, who is solicitor to the council. Rebecca Collins on my right, who is head of development management. Simon Wood at the end, who is the head of planning. We also have officers of Chris Hobson, and we've got a visit today. Lucky to have in the office as I've written him down. Someone I can't find him. Matthew Blackie. Sorry, Matthew, I had you written down and I can't find it. I've got paper everywhere here today. So Matthew's going to startle you all today with his brilliance, I hope. I've got a big thing to follow now then, Matthew. Okay, terrific. So if we could just start the meeting with our first item, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. If anyone needs to raise any question on that, or can I just have that as read? Councillor Monument.
There's one small point somewhere in the minutes on page 11, I believe. We've lost a number 2. Sorry, my screen keeps going dead on me, but somewhere on page 11, with reference to a development for 5 detached story dwellings. It needs to say 2-story.
So what item?
I'm trying to get my computer to tell me.
Attleborough, Snetterton. Oh,
Thank
Attleborough.
you. That's it.
Plot 6, proposal 5.
Otherwise, I'm happy.
Oh, 5. Yeah, that was meant to be 5 detached 2-story dwellings. Yeah, we've got 2 missing out. Thank you. There we go. We can have that corrected, can't we, June? Good. Yeah, we'll send that back to the machine, get that sorted out. Thank you for that. Apart from that, can I have? Oh, sorry, Councillor Atwell. Sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a point to note, really, regarding the Mill Road application. The minutes don't reflect my concerns last meeting, where I said I don't think officers have provided sufficient information for us to make a judgment on that application. And having visited the site since, I'm even more convinced that we should have had more information. You may not wish to change the minutes, but I'm just making that point that the minutes do not reflect that which I said at the time. Thank you.
Okay, that's the item at Shibden, yes? Land at the east of Mill Road. Yeah, we'll see about that. We might be able to add a slight bit in. I'm going to leave that to Julie. No, we can't. No, I've got my legal beagle here.
Thank you, Councillor. Your point is noted. Of course, this item deals with accuracy of the minutes. The minutes themselves now purely reflect who was there, that the report was presented, and the resolution. There's an awful lot in terms of comments that is not included, accepted yours as well. And I think the fact that you have expressly asked us to note that now is sufficient.
Thank you. Okay, so can I have those minutes agreed, please? Agreed, thank you very much. Okay, we move on to item 2, which is apologies and substitutions. Julie, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I have apologies from Councillor Crane and Councillor Dale, and Councillor Linda Monument is our only substitute in for today.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Monument, for coming in today. Do appreciate it. Okay, item 3, declarations of interest and representations. We will take them as each item is raised. So just hold fire, make a note. Chairman's announcements. Well, I don't usually have much to say, but I have today. We are looking into the new year to possibly changing the date of the committee meetings from a Monday to a Tuesday. So between now and very shortly, I'd like you to consider whether that is appropriate to you and your other things that you may have. I know there's a couple of twin hatters, but that's never usually been a problem. If you've got a meeting, you usually go on anyway. So, but anything if you, it will, well, no, but it's going to be more Tuesdays than Mondays. There's the odd occasion when they do clash with some other items, of which we will pull back to a Monday. Councillor Kittle-Morris.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Would that be the dates are already in the diary for the Mondays after the new year? Would you just move those dates to the following Tuesday?
We would attempt to do that. You will be notified. It basically gives us our officers another, just that other day following a weekend to get things organised. Monday mornings are a little bit of a mad dash panic, and it's very difficult to close the book on everything. So it's to make ease of the meeting. But if it's a case that someone every Tuesday, I have to have a breakfast in Dereham and do my fruit shopping. So that's got to change for one Tuesday of the month. I might have to do it on a Friday or go without fruit for a week. But that's one of the things I'm prepared to take that sacrifice. Councillor Digan.
I think that actually makes it easier for county members anyway, because county full council is always on a Monday, and often county, if people want to attend county cabinet, that's also on a Monday. And I think you'll find actually taking it away from Monday, you're going to have far less clashes, because so many organisations for some reason want to have their meetings on Monday mornings. So
Okay.
I think it'll be a positive.
That's fine. I panicked a bit as a Dereham member when you put your hand up that you were going to say Dereham will be pleased that I'm not there on a Tuesday, but never mind. Okay.
I'm always glad for you to spend your money in Dereham.
Thank you. Our next item, Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen is not on this committee anymore. She's resigned her position. I think it's been difficult for her to travel and various other reasons. But I'd like to thank her for all her work that she's done. She has been a very dominant force on this committee, as you all well know. And I think at times some of her comments can completely ride a meeting. And we've often been rather panicked that on a certain item that Marion may put her 4 worth in. But I do thank her for her input. Councillor Attewell.
Chairman, if I may, I'd just like to echo what you said. When I was elected in 2019 and first started on this committee, Mrs. Chapman-Allen was a constant source of support and guidance for me in those early meetings when everything was new. And I thank her most sincerely for that, and I wish her well. And hopefully we'll see her here as a substitute member. I believe she's still a substitute.
She is
So,
still a substitute.
Thank you,
member.
Marion.
But that's often what I class as my Ole Gunnar Solskjaer moment, because even though you could substitute, you end up playing every game if you're not careful. So it might be a curse more than anything. I'm going back in time there with that reference, not as manager but as player. Another item, we were present at the overview and scrutiny the other day with reference to the chairman's panel, and we have some various comments which have come from there, which we will be dealing with in due course, and we'll be slightly remodeling the panel to suit all the comments that we received. Councillor Attwell.
And just to emphasise, at the OSC meeting last Thursday, it was agreed that whatever changes you look to make, you'll bring back to this committee.
Which is why I mentioned
in the
it now.
future. Yeah,
Yes, I
thank you.
certainly will. And this is meant to be chairman's announcements, not Prime Minister's questions time, but we're doing well. I should get through it slowly. Okay, that's fine. I've got to tell the other one to do is we have programmed to have lunch today. I know it's very difficult, and the way we're going at the moment, we'll nearly be starting lunch soon. But lunch is planned for today, if you don't mind. And then just to finish off, probably one of the most important things is it's 53 sleeps to Christmas. Just, I mean, I know I do that in February and March, but now it has a prominence now. So you know there's not 253 days, there's only 53 sleeps. And it used to be days, but that's before we had shopping on all sorts of times. So that's that done. So we do to item 5, which is request to defer any items on the agenda.
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, and while you're still there, items of urgent business?
Not today, thank you.
Not today, thank you. There we go. Right, so we go to item 7. We've got Simon Wood to give us a local plan update, please.
Thank you, Chairman. As members are likely to know, a report on the local plan review was presented to Overview and Scrutiny Commission on Thursday last week, where the Commission resolved to send the report back to Cabinet for them to look at it afresh. It is programmed to take that to the next available meeting of the Cabinet, which I think is on the 15th of November. It may be the 14th, I'm not 100% sure, but it'll be on one of those 2 days, whichever the Monday is. So I will provide a further update at the next committee following that Cabinet meeting. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I think that's quite clear. No questions. Fine. Okay, before we move on, I've written my officers who are in attendance, and I've got names right down the bottom, which were underneath my other piece of paper, and I shall get shot if I don't mention that staff here today. We have got Julie Britton from Democratic Services, who will kill me later, and standing in at the last minute, we've got Mandy, our usher, at the back, and I'm not sure what your other lady's there. She's com service as well. Ruth, but she with committee service? Yes. Oh, you're doing a double shift today then. Okay, thanks, Ruth. Okay, got that out of the way. So item 8, we are going to start with deferred applications, and we've got our item at East Harling, 3PL 2021-0520/F, land at Taylor's Rise, Lopham Road. And our speakers for this morning for that, if you'd like to come and sit on the right-hand side, is Martin Day, who's an objector, David Huddart, who's an objector as well, and David Taylor, who's the applicant. If you'd like to come and sit on the right-hand side, please, gentlemen. Councillor Wilkinson.
Yeah, as members, I'd just like to put it out there that we've had correspondence from the applicant in 2 emails.
Okay, and same again. Thank you. That item's been noted. Okay, all in position, nice and comfy. Okay, over to you, please, Rebecca.
Thank you, Chairman. So we are looking at land at Taylor's Rise off Lopham Road in Harling for the erection of 6 dwellings with garages. Members will note from the last planning committee that this application was actually heard at that planning committee, where members resolved to refuse planning permission in accordance with the 5 reasons for refusal that were outlined in the officer report. Since that planning committee, it's come to light that there were errors with those reasons for refusal, and therefore we've sought to bring the application back to planning committee for members to re-review the application and resolve one way or the other based on the updated reasons for refusal, which are set out in the officer report. Of those reasons for refusal, I'll just run through the presentation and then I'll tell you about what the updates are. So members will note, as per the previous committee, that this is the application site outlined in red for you. Members will also note from the site photos and the layout plan that you're going to see in a second that the land to the north and west of the application site has in fact been developed now. This is the aerial photography taken from Google Maps, so it's a bit out of date. But this is the rough boundaries of the application site. So previously, members, with regards to reason for refusal 1, we showed you a settlement boundary plan as per the screen in front of you. Actually, this was the incorrect settlement boundary for East Harling, and therefore this is the correct settlement boundary for East Harling. You'll see Taylor's Drift and the application site to the south of the screen outlined in yellow in front of you. And you'll see that there is a straight line boundary running to the east of the of Harling along that southern yellow element. So there's a straight line. So the application site actually falls within the settlement boundary. Therefore, the previous reason for refusal 1 about development being outside the settlement boundary was incorrect and has now been removed from the recommendation. So the development falls within the settlement boundary, and therefore the principle of development is established in this location. This is the proposed location plan submitted with the application. You'll note that there's 6 dwellings proposed across the site. You'll note from the reasons for refusal, as per the last committee, that we have concerns in terms of the character of the street scene. So you'll note from the layout here to the south and the north, and also the photos that I'll show you in a minute, that there is linear development fronting onto the highway, running all the way to the south of Taylor's Drift and all the way around the estate. And at the frontage of the site, the application proposes 2 splayed plots with parking out of the front of it. We consider this to be out of character with the surrounding development, and we have clarified in the updated reasons for refusal, but this was referred to in the previous committee, that those plots to the frontage are 5 and 6. So we have updated that reason for refusal to ensure that the character is linear development, and these splayed plots are out of character with that linear development as per the committee report. You'll also note from the committee report, and as discussed the same at the previous committee, we are concerned about the amenity of those 2 properties at the frontage, those splayed property plots 5 and 6, with the dwellings to the rear all being accessed between the private access drive in between those plots. So those properties will be subject to cars and vehicles driving past the frontage of those properties, including their windows and the whole of their rear gardens. And therefore, we believe that we can substantiate an amenity reason for refusal on that basis. Members will also note from this plan the garage just close to the trees on the eastern boundary of the site. You'll note from the officer report that previously the tree officer had objected to the application on the grounds that garage lies within the RPAs of those trees. You'll also note from the supplementary report that the applicant has stated that they will move the garage outside of the RPA of those trees, and they've now provided amended plans over the weekend to demonstrate that. Subject to there being no objection from the tree officer, we would propose that you delegate to remove that reason for refusal in the event there was no objections, because the garage has now been moved outside the RPAs. Apologies, just checking my notes. Oh, and apologies, members, this is obviously a better image of those plots 5 and 6 displayed at the frontage of the site, the private access in between those running to plots 2 and 3 to the rear of the application site, and the garage in question close to the RPAs of trees, which the applicants proposed to move outside the RPAs, and therefore we believe that would satisfy the tree officer's reason for refusal, but we would need his comments in order to remove that reason for refusal. So here are the elevation plans of the dwellings proposed. In a minute, members, we've got some photos of the wider estate, and you can see that the frontage of those dwellings falls pretty much in line and character with those on the wider estate. And again, the elevations and indeed of the garages proposed as well. And here are just the ground floor plans showing the layout of the dwellings in a bit more detail, and the first floor plans. So we just have some photographs of the estate just to show you. So this is as you approach this site from the south, to show the linear form of development with all frontage dwellings fronting onto the highway. And this is on the opposite side of the road to the application site, showing again that linear form of development as you approach the site. And then we're just panning around the application site at the minute to show that it is currently a building site that's not being used, not grassed. And we're panning around, Harris fenced the site, and this is the existing dwelling to the north of the site. As we're panning across the site, you can also see obviously on that eastern boundary the existing trees that the tree officer was concerned about with the garage in their RPA. And that is the side elevation and the trees of that plot immediately to the north of the application site. And that's its front elevation. And just panning round, this is on the opposite side of the square, just to show you the house types and that the elevations would fit in with the house types on the wider estate. So just to clarify, members, we've removed the in-principle objection to development in this location because the site is in the settlement boundary. We've updated reference to plots 5 and 6 in reason for refusal 2. We've clarified what the character impact is in reason for refusal 3. The tree survey is set out in the supplementary, and I've already mentioned that. Also, members, there is a reason for refusal with regards to insufficient ecology information being provided with the application. The applicant hasn't provided additional ecology information, but has requested that we go back to our ecologist saying that it is currently a building site, as you've seen in front of you, and therefore the opportunities for ecology are limited, albeit there are trees along the eastern boundary, which is an opportunity for ecology. Unfortunately, to the date of this meeting, we haven't heard back from our ecologist on that basis, and we would therefore request that you delegate the reason for refusal with regards to ecology with us on the basis if they continue to object that there's insufficient information, that reason for refusal would stay. If they think that on the grounds of seeing the photographs of the site that there was unlikely to be any ecology and they wouldn't object, then we would remove that reason for refusal. Finally, we've added a reason for refusal 5, which was missed off at the previous committee, whereby the applicant doesn't propose to provide any affordable housing for this site. This is 6 additional housing on a site of wider development under the same applicants, and therefore we view this as continuous development. And on those grounds, although it's only 6 dwellings and less than half a hectare, on the grounds that it's contiguous development, then we would always require affordable housing in line with policy. We do that on all sites, members, and therefore there should be 25% affordable housing off the back of these 6 units, and therefore that should form a reason for refusal, and that's what we proposed to be added to the reason for refusal. So based on the previous errors, we are obviously bringing this back to you, members, to reconsider, but our recommendation remains as one of refusal with those 5 reasons for refusal as I've set out. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I've got Martin Day and Dave Huddart, and you've got a minute and a half each. Is that okay? Yep. Okay. Who's gone first, Martin or David?
Yeah, I'll start off. Thank you, Councillors. Just before I start, can I have just the first of the 3 images up before I start, please? Thank you. Councillors, COM 03 states development will not be permitted which affects the residential amenity of neighbouring occupants. On the left is the site's existing planning consent with the dwelling some 30 metres from the occupied property on plot 15, my family home. On the right is today's application, which includes a dwelling not the expected 30 metres away, but barely 2 metres away in an extremely overbearing position, which compared to the existing planning permission overshadows our private amenity space, rendering our south-facing kitchen garden unusable, as well as totally obstructing the outlook from the kitchen window located in that side elevation, all in clear contravention of COM 03 and thus should be rejected. The developer may mention a restriction to our right to light, but a right to light is a civil law matter regarding specifically the passage of light through windows after a 20-year period. It is not the same as wider planning issues of overshadowing or overbearance and cannot circumvent COM 03. Image 2, please, Rebecca. There are, of course, alternative layouts which would comply with core planning policies. The example on the right is clearly far more in keeping with the existing flow and layout of Taylor Drift, and unlike the developer's proposal, avoids any overbearing or overshadowing of plot 15. Finally, the third image, please, Rebecca. To assist further, this is simply a zoomed in version of the site, directly comparing the existing planning consent on the left, the developer's non-compliant proposal in the middle, and then just an example on the end there of what a far more suitable compliant proposal could look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Huddart, then please, a minute and a half, please, sir.
Okay, can I start by saying numerous errors? Sorry about that. Numerous errors in the original planning application have been identified, and I trust the councillors will take due note of them. My own house was not part of the original plans in 2017, but it was approved as East Harling at the time did not have a 5-year land supply as required by NPPF. And it was felt that an addition of one house built in a very similar style to those around it would be acceptable. Importantly, the application was approved by this council with the statement the site was considered a sustainable location for one further development in accordance with CP 14. Other factors against this planning application include restrictive access to the site on a narrow road, a very slow build rate, and the fact that the front 2 houses are totally out of keeping with all the other properties in phase 3. Claims by the developer these additional 5 houses will not extend the site completion date must be viewed with his progress on house building made over the last 5 years. How much longer will the residents of Taylor Drift have to endure living on a building site with noisy machinery, construction traffic, excessive dust, and loud music? So despite the pretty images supplied recently, which may well be shown by the applicant, a visit to the site by anybody will demonstrate that this proposal is not in keeping with the surrounding houses. It's a classic example of planning creep, and it must be stopped. For these reasons, I ask the council to reject the application as they have previously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got David Taylor, please, who's the applicant. 3 minutes, sir.
Good morning. The proposal is a revision of the last part of phase 2 of Taylor Drift. The application is fully policy compliant. The whole site is within the village guideline of East Harling and was supported by the parish council unanimously. The planning officer, Tom Donnelly, was sent the arboricultural assessment and tree protection plan on the 25th of May 2021, and with a slight adjustment to the plot 3 positioning of the garage, the tree officer Hugh Cockles has already confirmed there are no objections. Phase 2 has currently 18 properties which are approved, and this amendment will increase the number to 23. The policy requirement is 25%. Therefore, we have already achieved this because we've supplied 6 affordable homes already. However, we have offered the council to consider the whole site would now be 41 houses, and we would offer an additional affordable home to bring that up to 25% in the way of a £50,000 contribution. But Rebecca has rejected that and sees this as an individual site. So we go back to the phase 2 application. which is 25% compliant. So the amenity, I don't know why they're saying that the houses don't face the road on. Plot 5 does clearly face the road on, and plot 6 is designed deliberately to face to the green at the rear, which has been a requirement in the past. We have a village green situation. We'd like the houses to face it, so we can't face them both ways. Plot 5 and 6 are the same design as plot 8 and 9, which were approved last year by when the planning officer stated the size of the proposed plots are comparable with the approved with those approved elsewhere in the development, and it is considered to provide sufficient private amenity space for the occupants. Plot 5 and 6 are in fact have more amenity space than the approved plot 8 and 9. And in addition, we have specified feature brick walls to the rear to further enhance the amenity. The private drives are a consistent element of the development and are a very attractive feature to buyers. In summing up, the parish council stated they are in keeping with the rest of the development. The proposal is thus totally policy compliant, fully within the village guideline, very attractive, fully supported by the parish council, and totally in keeping with the rest of the development. And I'd ask you, if you would please, to support the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's open to questions from members. No. Oh, and then I say that, and then their hands go up. Councillor Wilkinson, and then Councillor Attwell, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's just the point about Norfolk County Council Highways mentioned about the displays. Have they been put in what they asked for on this extra, if this extra development went ahead? They've noted that traffic speed and visibility displays need to be 2.4 meters by 20 would be acceptable. Is that being done, or?
Councillor, we could condition those to be done in the event we were approving planning permission, but we haven't sought for any updated plans because we've obviously recommended this application for refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Attwell, please.
Thank you, Chairman. First thing to note, I did email the ward member at the weekend to try and get his view on the application, and he's confirmed to me that he supports the parish council's view, which was no objection. Rebecca, could you just clarify what the situation is with these affordable homes? Because I'm slightly confused now, and I'm sure members might appreciate some clarification. We've heard from you, we've heard from the applicant. You're saying that this is sort of like I've heard this development creep. Now, if this is an overall development being done by the same developer, how many affordable homes have we achieved on the site so far? And how many are we short by these additional dwellings? So if you could just clarify that, and then I'll come back to my second point, please.
So I think that the neighbour used the development creep. I used the phrase contiguous development, which is a matter clarified in the policy. So the developer has built out some dwellings, and Mr. Taylor has actually given us the numbers so he can confirm whether I've got them right or not. But members, some of this development was built out under the previous local plan, under that policy, which required a higher number of affordable higher number of affordable dwellings, and that development has been built out, as you've seen from the photographs. So although it's contiguous development as a whole, we're not looking at the site as one whole, because part of the development was viable to build out under the old policy, which required a higher number of affordable housing than the current policy. And obviously, members, as you're already aware, you can only assess this development under the current policy. So yes, we're saying it is one complete site and it's contiguous development. And on that basis, albeit there only being 6 dwellings and less than half a hectare, it needs to comply with affordable housing policy. But we're not looking at the complete site. So what Mr. Taylor has already said is that if he builds one more affordable dwelling or provides a contribution for that dwelling, then he believes that he's delivered 25% affordable housing across the whole site. Now, we've had legal advice that says his development was built out under a previous policy and was viable to do so. There was no viability assessment to demonstrate that it couldn't achieve the previous 35% and then 40% development. That development's been built out in accordance with policy, and therefore we're just looking at this individual plot for 6 dwellings where there's a requirement to provide 25% affordable housing. So members, if you take the site as a whole under the 25% rule, then we are 1 affordable dwelling short. Mr. Taylor's made an offer of a monetary contribution. Your policy clearly states that we don't take a monetary contribution instead of affordable housing without a viability assessment, which we don't have today, members. But what we're saying to you is that if you view the site as a whole under the 25% policy, then you've undermined your 40% policy that the previous element of the site was developed under. And we've had legal advice to that effect.
Yes, come back by all means.
Okay. That hasn't really clarified for me, I'm afraid. So could you just tell me how many dwellings has been built on the site so far, and how many of those dwellings were affordable dwellings? Because the original policy was for 40% contribution, correct? So how many dwellings have been built? Perhaps the applicant can confirm that, because I just want to get, I'm just trying to, in my mind, understand if we're talking about the whole site and then we're adding these dwellings, how many affordable have been built in total on the development? Could somebody just clarify that for me?
Yeah, okay. It's certainly an area of contention between me and the officers, let's put it that way. So my contention is that we've been forced to change our percentage numbers in the past when the policy has changed. Originally, phase 1, the policy was 30%, and we had 30% affordables.
The question was how many have been built?
I will get there. So the second phase, the policy then changed to 35%, and it went to appeal. We won the policy arguments, but the detail changed. And Nick Moyes asked me to change the layout to have a village green at the front on phase 1 and 2. This effectively meant we had to change phase 1. So I will get there.
Yeah.
It's important that I get this point across in the correct way, because it is the key element of this. Okay. Well, the application at the moment has 36 homes, and we've delivered 9 affordables. That's not what's actually built. The 36 are not built, but 9 affordables are. So we've got 36 approved and 9 affordables, which is 25%. We are suggesting that if we add these extra 5, because there's 6 in the application, but there's an existing permission for 1, so that's deducted effectively. So we will total 41, which would have given an allocation of 10 affordables, so we would be 1 short. We don't think it's viable to have a housing association contract with us for 1 home. It's a big, massive contract that you get involved in. So we're offering a £50,000 contribution in lieu of that. Now, the alternative way to look at that is at phase 2, which is this land forms part of the approved development of. This is the only plot that isn't developed on it, and it's part of phase 2. We have 17 homes. We're adding 6, that'd be 23. 25% of 23 is 6 homes, and on phase 2 we've built 6 homes, so we are 25% with policy compliant.
Okay. In a roundabout fashion, yes. Yes, please. Can you put your microphone on as well?
If I ask any more on that, I think I'm just going to will live. So on this gentleman over here talked about his dwelling, and one of these dwellings is going to back onto it very closely. So can you tell me, is there any windows on the existing dwelling that are looking out onto the proposed new one? So effectively you're going to be very close, so people have got wind, so they're going to be looking straight into each other's bedroom windows. Is that have we got that detail?
I can show you a photo if you'd like. I'm going to need to flick back, sorry, members. So, we're in the photo.
Please, please.
So this has been assessed, members. So the proposed new dwelling will sit adjacent to this property, and you can clearly see from this side elevation that there are windows in this side elevation. Now, you will hear from the neighbour that the neighbour mentioned a kitchen window. These windows in the side elevation are secondary windows or not to habitable rooms. And therefore, we wouldn't say that the new dwelling would either be overbearing or would block light on that basis, because they're secondary windows to the kitchen or not to habitable rooms. Also, you'll note the close boarded fence that sits beside the boundary with the kitchen window that's mentioned, a 1.8 metre close boarded fence, which would block a significant amount of light to that room. And on that basis, we don't consider there's a significant impact to amenity to warrant a reason for refusal. However, members, if you disagree with that based on the information that's submitted, because it is a judgment about whether COMO 3 says there would be an impact to amenity, there are quite obviously windows there, and the new dwelling would come in quite close proximity to those windows. So members, we already have an amenity reason for refusal. If you felt that this was a significant amenity impact, then obviously we can update that. But it is our view as officers that as they are secondary windows that are not to habitable rooms and the presence of the fence, that the amenity impact wouldn't be so significant to substantiate a reason for refusal. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Atwell, please, and then Councillor Clark.
Are you saying off that picture the first floor windows aren't habitable rooms? What rooms are they? Thank you.
Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a question for Rebecca. On page 23, there's a new query question. Item 1, reason for review effect of adverse effect on amenities. You've mentioned there plots 5 and 6 would experience undue noise disturbance and traffic movements from the access road. Is that, can you clarify that? Is that in relation to the distance from the road of those houses? That's why the judgment is about the noise, or if there's another objective or technical measure? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So it's that the private drive for the plots behind, which I haven't got in front of me, I believe 2 and 3. So the private drive for those particular plots to the rear, there's 2 plots to the rear, runs in between plots 5 and 6. So that, and because those plots are splayed onto that access road with all their frontage windows, so we believe as officers that the vehicles accessing the plots to the rear have got to drive past the frontage of those windows, causing lights and noise and disturbance, plus the whole length of their rear gardens, and then are parking behind those rear gardens. So they're completely surrounded by new development. And we consider on that basis there would be an impact on amenity on those 2 plots specifically.
Okay, any further questions? No. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify a point, that the resident said that was a narrow access road, and now will the road be adopted by the county council afterwards or not? No.
The private drive in between or the main road? The main road, you would have to ask the applicant, because obviously that's not a subject to this application.
It's due to be adopted.
Okay, no further questions. We'll go for the vote on this item. Item 8A this morning, 3PL 2021-0520/F at Harling, land at Taylor's Rise, Lopham Road. Your officer's recommendation on this is one of refusal. Could I have a show of hands for refusal, please? And those against? 2. Okay, this item's refused. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We move on to item 8B now, which is at Old Buckingham, 3PL 2021-0210. And we've got Nick Moyes, who's the agent, and Councillor Phil Cohen, who's the adjacent ward member. If you'd like to come sit on the right-hand side, please, or stay where you are if you wish. Councillor Cohen. Seems you're nice and comfy and your chair's nice and warm. You ladies might want to disinfect Mr. Moyes while you're at it. We don't know where he's been since he left Breckland. Good to see you, Nick. Okay. Well, this would be Naomi Minto's one, but she's been pinged, so it's over to you then, please, Rebecca.
Thank you, Chairman. So members may recall this application because it was also deferred from an earlier planning committee. So we're at Old Buckingham. It's for the erection of four dwellings and garages, apologies. It is technical details consent following a permission in principle approval. So here is the application site outlined in red for you, showing the aerial. This is a bit out of date because works have already commenced on the site. This is just to show the proximity to the settlement boundary, which is obviously relevant to the PIP, but not relevant to the technical details because there is PIP consent to develop four dwellings on this site. And this is the location plan that's submitted with the application. So this is the technical details layout that was submitted with the technical details consent that you would be approving today in the event you were to go with the officer recommendation. So you can clearly see that there's four dwellings spaced across the site, and we spoke to members about the design of the dwellings and the layout being acceptable, we felt, to the wider character of the area, and that the officer had done some work with the applicants about moving the garages. So albeit they're on the frontage, there still is a large green open frontage to the site. You'll also note the hedgerow to the frontage of the site. Members will remember from the last committee that the applicant did have permission in principle, consent on the site, but unfortunately, without gaining technical details, they commenced work on site, including the removal of the hedgerow to the frontage of the site, which our tree officer believed to be in historic hedgerows. Unfortunately, that hedgerow is gone, and we've got some photos of the site, but the officers have been working with the applicants and the agents to find a resolution to developing the site out as shown on the plans and including replacement hedgerow. And members may recall from the last committee that that despite that recommendation to approve, they requested it was deferred. So there was an opportunity for the applicants to submit an updated ecology report addressing some of the concerns that were raised by the ecologist about the proposed replacement planting, its extent and its species, and the location and the species of the hedgerow to satisfy the tree officer as well. So just to show you the elevations of the plots that are proposed to be built under this technical details consent. And plot 4. So since the previous committee, obviously officers have been working with the applicants to ensure that we've got appropriate replacement planting as per the request by members. And the applicants have provided the plan to show their intentions with the site. So you can see the red element is unfortunately where that hedgerow has been removed. You can also see the green within the site about the replacement planting of the hedgerow, which is also going to continue to the west and to the south of the site to ensure that there is a positive impact from the removal of the hedgerow, as well as to ensure the ecology gain and the replacement planting. So you can see the green on the plan marked with a B, some hedgerow that was left intact, but it is intended to remove that element of hedgerow. The purple just to the west there is to remain intact and to be kept. And then the same to the blue as well also. And then the applicants have provided extra landscaping detail to show what the species, where the location of planting is going to go. You will note from the officer report and the supplementary that our ecologists have now responded to the consultation They're happy with the additional mitigation proposed, that it matches that of the 285 metres of hedgerow either to be removed or that have been removed. And they are satisfied that the species and the location and the amount of hedgerow to be planted would result in a net gain in ecology. And they're satisfied to remove their rejection subject to a condition. You'll also note from the officer report that the tree officer is satisfied with the landscape specification that has been submitted with the documentation. They've got no objection to the location and the planting of the replacement hedgerow or the species, but obviously still remain concerned about the removal of this historic hedgerow. And just to show you some images of the site, so these images were taken and presented at the previous committee to show that the frontage of the site where the hedgerow have been removed and the dwellings that are currently under construction. And we're just panning around the site. And again, to that section of hedgerow that needs to be removed, there's a section that's all stay, a section that needs to be removed. But obviously the appropriate replanting for the 285 metres. Just your site photos. I want to go back to the layout, please, members. So as officers, obviously, based on the members' recommendation to defer from the previous committee, we have been working with the applicants to get an acceptable solution for the site to ensure that there is an acceptable replanting scheme with ecological gain as required by policy. The other details with regards to the site layout, the character of the dwellings, the impact on the amenity of neighbours, the highways impact, they're satisfied that splays can be achieved with the removal and relocation of the hedgerow. And for those reasons, subject to the replanting taking place and the conditions, we've actually recommended this one for approval.
Thank you. Mr. Moyes, you have 3 minutes, please, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Morning, members. Not very much to add from me to the officer's presentation, but there are 2 or 3 points I'd just like to bring to your attention. Firstly, just to emphasise that the current proposals are very much in line and consistent with the permission in principle that was granted last year. Members may well recall that when proposals were originally submitted, they were rejected by committee on the basis that there wasn't sufficient pedestrian linkage between the site and the village. And to address this, a revised application was submitted which showed the new footway, as does the current proposal. And the application was approved on that basis, so the principle of development was accepted on the basis that that new footway would be provided. Now, it was made clear at the time that the provision of the footway and the associated displays from the access would require much of the existing frontage hedge to be removed, and obviously that's the case with the current proposals. That wasn't really a matter of choice, it's just a physical reality that the amount of space between the hedge and the road. To mitigate the loss of the hedging, as you've heard, detailed landscaping proposals and specifications have been provided, and they show a considerable amount of new hedging proposed not only on the site frontage but elsewhere, 285 metres roughly of new hedging compared to the 70 metres of hedging to be removed from the site frontage. And just to note, of that 70 metres to be removed, 20 metres at least is probably not really best described as hedging, it's really just scrub, bracken and brambles. Tree planting is also proposed, and to give some short-term impact, heavy and extra heavy standards have been shown on the landscaping scheme. And to confirm, the applicant has no objections to the conditions recommended in terms of landscaping or biodiversity enhancement. In terms of the footway, an issue that's obviously central to the application and the concern from the Parish Council, just to give members assurance that the applicant is fully committed to providing that footway as soon as possible. And to this end, rather than waiting for a decision on the current application, has proceeded to draw up an agreement with Norfolk County Council. Detailed proposals have been submitted to the County Council and now approved under a small highway works agreement. So I think the requirements of condition 12 as currently drafted on your agendas have now effectively been met, although clearly members, I assume, will want to have a condition that requires that scheme to be implemented, presumably prior to the occupation of the dwellings. And again, that would be acceptable. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Cowan, please.
Thank you, Chairman, members. What you've heard today, I hope, is in many ways a vindication of the process and the principles that we follow in this council. And the beneficiary is that we get a net gain in biodiversity on this site. At the end of the day, that's what's happened. I think it's quite right to reflect on permissions in principle and what they do and don't do. But when a permission in principle is granted, there is therefore an expectation that certain works have to be carried out in order to ensure that a proposal which was found to be favourable could actually be implemented. It is a shame that we didn't have all the ecological reports in place at the time we last met, but they are there now. And I think from everything you've heard from both Rebecca and from Nick Moyes on behalf of the applicant, that this scheme now will provide a better environment than was feared at the last time we met in this room. So I would urge you to reflect on the officer's recommendation and the discussions that have been held, and also the point about the highway works with the county council and the footway, and accept the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. It's open to questions from members. No. Oh, Councillor Kybird, please.
Thank you, Chairman. In terms of planting hedgerows, is there a duty to ensure they become fully established?
I'm talking ad hoc, which I don't like to do, but the condition usually requires, and I'm going to scroll down to it, for the maintenance of them for a period of 5 years. So if they were dying or were removed for any reason, which then allows them a period to be established. And then I believe we updated the condition further. So that is condition 5, to ensure that the tree or plant is replaced, removed or uprooted or dies. Another tree or plant of the same species and size will be replanted for a period of 5 years. And then there's a further condition at 6 for it to be maintained at a height of 1.5 metres. Apologies, councillor, I'm a bit of a drafting on this one.
Okay, any further questions? No. Okay, thank you. For this item at Old Buckingham, 8B for today, 3PL 2021-0210. Development site on Hartham Road. Your officer's recommendation is one of approval. Could I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. Oh, coming back.
Can I?
Please.
A member's happy to delegate condition 12 to us in discussion with the Highways Authority to be updated.
Yes, thank you. Okay, thanks, gentlemen. You can stay where you are, Councillor Cohen. We're going to item 9A, 3PL 2021-1191 at Attleborough. And we've got Councillor Cohen, who's the agent. Oh, and Councillor Taylor, but I haven't seen her in the room. No, not here. She's not hiding anywhere. No, that's okay. No, that's fine. And we'll just wait while it gets connected. You haven't heard anything, Julie, off camera? No, okay. Okay, over you to them, Matthew. Oh.
That's great. So good morning, councillors. So this is an application for former garden, garage, driveway to Douglas House, and the application description is it's the construction of a single-storey, one-bedroom dwelling with car parking on site, together with a private garden, and then part demolition and rebuilding of a flint wall to Eden Lane. So this is the location plan. So the site here is in red, and then because of the ownership with Douglas House, that's been highlighted in blue as well. And then this is the site in the wider context. So as you can see, this is the site here, and it's found within the centre and the settlement boundary for Attlesborough itself. And just to give context, so this is the main high street for Attlesborough, You've got a car park that is for the main centre. You've got a bungalow here, some other residential dwellings here, and then you've got a mixture of commercial and residential around the site as well. So as you'll be aware from the officer report, there has been 2 previous refuse schemes on the site itself, and this was the refuse scheme itself. So this was the previous one, and it was refused on the grounds of overdevelopment of the site and having an impact on the character of the area. So, and this is just an existing site scheme as well. Okay, so here is the proposed site plan. So as you can see, there has been a reduction in size of the proposed dwelling itself. So it's found here. You've got a private garden to the back here. This is going to be an area for bin storage, and there's always going to be the rebuilding of the flint wall here. And then this is going to be the parking area as well. And here is just the proposed floor plan. So as you can see, it's going to be a one bedroom dwelling. And then here are just some proposed elevations. So this is looking at it from Eden Drive itself. So this is the principal elevation, and here is the car park. This is looking at it as if you were approaching Eden Drive. So here you can see it's the side elevation, and you can see the neighbouring bungalow there. And then this is looking at it from as if you're on Eden Drive looking from the east. So this is the side, and here's some of the dwellings that are 2-storey behind it. And then this is looking at it from as if you're looking at it from the from behind, so to the rear of the site. Okay, so next up are just a range of site photos just to demonstrate the concern. So the application is recommended for refusal, again, on the grounds of overdevelopment of the site and having a detrimental impact on the character of the area. And so here is the front of the site. So this would be where the driveway would be. Just to let you know, at the time of taking the pictures for the site visits, which was about a month ago, and then last week as well, there was fencing that has been erected on the site. So just to take that as note. Here's just a wider shot, just to show the rear of the site, and then just some of the dwellings behind. This is again within the site, and here's the fencing. This is looking out onto the front of the site. Again, looking out onto the front, and then you can see that there's going to be a dwelling to the side soon. Another one towards the rear. So the concern is about the impact of the dwelling on the character of the area. So this is from Eden Side Drive itself, and this is sort of looking towards the east of the site. And you can see this is the neighbouring dwelling there. Again, just a bit further back again. And then this is even further back. So this is the exit for the car park itself, and this is the site here. And again, so this would be the entrance for the car park. And again, looking at this is the site here. And then just a bit closer up as well. Okay, so the application has been recommended for refusal on the grounds of overdevelopment of the site and having a detrimental impact on the character of the area and conflicting with local plan policies of Gen 02, Com 01 and Com 03. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Philip Cowan, who is the agent, please. 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, members. Imagine you're an elderly couple, perhaps infirm in some way, or a single person wanting to downsize from your large house and garden, or even a young professional trying to get on their housing ladder, but you want to live within easy walking distance from the post office, supermarkets and other town centre facilities, bus stops and the railway station. This site provides all of the above and a modern home, easy to maintain, energy efficient, with off-road private parking for 2 vehicles and 90 square metres of private, relatively maintenance-free garden space as a form of a courtyard. A plot area of 267 square metres, a footprint of 113, and a detached single-storey dwelling with a plot density on that plot of 42%. This is what's called overdevelopment. This compares with adjacent cottages that you saw on Eden Lane when you saw that from the site plan. The plot areas ranging from 85 square metres up to 145, and footprints of much less than this particular dwelling we're proposing. All of the above, that's numbers 5 to 7, 8 and 9, have plot densities ranging from 40 to 62%. They've smaller amenity spaces. They're not modern energy efficient dwellings. They're 2-storey and share car parking spaces behind the barn further along the lane. A recent housing needs survey carried out in a nearby rural area within Breckland identified a need for smaller energy efficient dwellings that were in short supply. And the same is true of our urban areas. We need more people to live in our market towns post the pandemic to aid in the recovery of the place. We need them to live in highly energy efficient homes to reduce their carbon footprint, and we need to reuse brownfield sites when they are available. Officers maintain that the site on which the application is located is overdeveloped. Unsurprisingly, I disagree. This proposal provides for a generous internal arrangement that fits with 21st century lifestyle, has private garden space that is neither overlooked by the commercial premises fronting Connaught Road, nor in turn overlooks other buildings. Privacy for all is maintained, and there is ample space for 2 vehicles to park off-road. It is, after all, a town centre infill site. When compared with adjacent plots, this brownfield site offers a more generous opportunity for those whose needs are such that a single-storey, single-bedroom home in a town centre location within a residential quarter meets their criteria. It is unashamedly contemporary in design to provide a transition between the commercial properties fronting Connaught Road and the more traditional housing along Edenside and Eden Lane. It does not overshadow anything. It sits against a flat roof garage, and hence the design is shown as you've seen. It is fundamentally different from previous applications which have been refused, which had large pitch roofs. It also addresses the orientation on the site. And I urge you to recommend this application be granted approval. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I did enjoy doing that, but it's very noisy, the bell. So there we go. Open to any questions at all from any of the members? Oh, here we go. So I've got Councillor Attwell, Councillor Wilkinson, and then I'll take Councillor Martin. Far away.
Chairman, I hear what Councillor Cowan says, or what Mr. Cowan says regarding the need for a dwelling, sustainable dwelling in Attleborough. But taken in context the fact that we're looking at a sustainable, I'll use that I'll emphasise that, urban extension of Attleborough of 4,000 new homes. I don't see any reason why we should cram this one dwelling into a garden plot. And I just, sorry, I think this committee generally takes a dim view on garden plots, especially when we're trying to cram it in here with very little garden and amenity left on the site. So I'm afraid I can't support this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Matthew, the fence you pointed out was erected. Is that the rear of the plot? Or one side of it? Oh, sorry.
No problem. The fence that's been erected, I'd probably say it's more into the middle of the site, but I couldn't get access to the rear of the site, if that makes sense. So
Driveway, that's just a car width. So how is commercial vehicles going to get off the road to unload on that plot to build a property? It's clearly very, very tiny, isn't it?
I think if I could ask Councillor Cowan, I think the existing entrance is different to what the proposed finished
can I
product
clarify
will be.
that, Chairman? Firstly, the fence is not a permanent fence structure. It's a bit of netting amongst other things. The access way exists. It is a perfectly serviceable driveway onto that site. I mean, you only have to go elsewhere down Edenside, and every other house has exactly the same problem in terms of access for vehicles. This site is quite unusual in that it allows vehicles to pull off the road. And the photographs are, to be frank, a little misleading because of the amount of vegetation which is shown there, which is basically weeds.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Sorry, and I've got Councillor Martin then, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A bit disappointing that my fellow ward rep was not here because she was coming to support it, and the other planning member who's not here as well was supporting it because it was unanimously supported at town council. The existing entrance can even be wider because the shrubbery on the right, which doesn't show very well on the photos, is probably 5 or 6 foot wide, you know, on that side. Douglas House is not a is actually a veterinary practice now, a business. There's 2 flats above, but which have been there a number of years. And I could fully support it. I mean, you know, the 2 previous applications were overdevelopment, but this one is quite practical. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we've got Councillor Kybird and Councillor Monument, please.
Thank you, Chairman. We've seen dozens of single bedroom units approved in Thetford with no amenity space and no parking provision. I think 42% site occupancy is more than adequate. In fact, that I would think that this development would enhance what is currently an area of scrub. Thank you.
Councillor Monument.
I've taken a great interest in this particular application because quite near to where I live in Dereham, a similar sized plot, I'll bring it a little nearer, a similar sized plot, perhaps about 10% bigger, was given permission for development in a rather similar position. And I thought it was overdevelopment of the site at the time, but have watched the building grow on it, and looks not bad. But it gave me the reason to look into this. And I've come to the conclusion that although this plot is actually about 10% smaller than the one I've been watching, it is only a single bedroom, single story building compared with the one I've seen, which has been developed to a 3-bedroom in Dereham. And I think it is an opportunity. And I think possibly because other people haven't shown the same curiosity as I have and printed off, they may not realize that the plot, although it looks very narrow at the frontage, I think it's still probably 4 or 5 meters wide at the gateway, it widens out quite a lot. I may be wrong. I may be judging it wrong, but it does seem to me to be a site that could comfortably develop. My only doubt was about the design, all very good, but I couldn't quite understand whether it's actually completely flat roofed or not. But perhaps Mr. Cowan can enlighten us on that. Otherwise, I'm in favour of it.
Flat roof, Mr. Cowan?
It is indeed.
Thank
Chairman.
you. That's all I wanted. Rebecca, you're coming back, please?
Can I?
Please do.
I just wanted to say, members, that obviously each case is considered on its own merits, and you need to do that and not compare it to other plots within the application site. And just to remind members that, you know, obviously, unlike other plots elsewhere, the previous refusals on this site are material planning considerations in the determination of this application, but we accept the design and the scale of the proposal has changed. And also the reason for refusal is with regards to the overdevelopment of the application site and not the access to the application site. But obviously, again, members, that is within your remit to consider and add as a reason if you felt appropriate.
Okay, no further questions. Okay, before we go to the vote, I think it's fair to say that I had words with Matthew about this item and we both were in agreement initially that it does look very favourable. But once he goes into the detail of the actual application, that's why he was met with his reasoning to go for an objection on this particular approval, this particular application. So with that in mind, could I just say that on item 9A, 3PL 2021-1191 at Attleborough, former garden, garage and driveway to Douglas House, your officer's recommendation is one of refusal. Could I have a show of hands for refusal, please? 4, and those against? 5, right? So 4, 5. So can I have a reason from the floor why you disagree with the officers and a seconder for that as well, please? Someone to come forward first. Councillor Bowes.
Thank you, Chairman. That it's acceptable use of a brownfield site to provide a sustainable home in the market town.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kybert, are you seconding that? Thank you.
And that the plot density does not constitute overdevelopment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So from the floor then now, your recommendation is one of approval. Could I have a show of hands for approval for this item, please? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Same reverse. Yes, can we delegate conditions, please? Yes, we can. Thank you. Any other issues? No. Okay, thank you. This item is approved. Thank you, Mr. Cowan. Okay, I'm just going to break for 10 minutes. So if you'd like to get a quick drink and various refreshments and toilet facilities that you may need, and then return ready to start for Colkirk at 25, just after 25 past. Thank you.